Hello guys, I'm sorry for the late upload, but I'm back 5 like for next maybe, but that maybe to high so 3 likes for part 4 anyway, let's get on with it. Naruto sighed as he felt Zabuza, he'd known it. The man was still alive. That was too easy of a death for someone so powerful. He looked at Sasuke, he's here, Sasuke. So he was alive? Yes, I knew there was something suspicious. You ready? Sasuke cracked his knuckles, born ready, Naruto. Good, this'll be a pain and I might be forced to reveal my special ability. If that happens, you will be joining me. Kakashi looked between them, you guessed it as well? Yeah, we knew Zabuza had to still be alive. That hunter Nin should have killed him straight out, not taken his body. Kakashi nodded, I thought the same thing. Well, if it isn't the little ninjas again. Nice to see you once more. I look forward to seeing you dead at my hands, Kakashi. Let's get started. Haku. The bridge builder. A female voice spoke, yes, Zabuza-sama. Right away. Naruto's eyes narrowed, guard Tazuna. Sasuke, let's take down this fake hunter. Of course, Naruto. You won't be able to. You'll die. Ice style, ice mirrors. Mirrors of ice formed around them and Naruto's eyes narrowed further, watching as the girl sped from mirror. She thought he couldn't follow her? Foolish. His eyes activated, let's destroy her quickly, Sasuke. Kakashi-sensei may need help. Right. Sasuke's eyes swirled into the Sharingan as well and Haku's eyes widened. How? How do they both have fully evolved Sharingan? How is this possible? I heard there were only 2 Uchihas left and I've seen Itachi Uchiha. Neither one is that man. So how is this possible? Shit. I won't be able to beat them. No. I have to try for Zabuza-sama's sake. The blonde pulled a katana out and watched her as she sped around. A small amused smile made its way onto his face. I can see you, Haku. I can follow your movements. You think you can win? Foolish girl. Nothing escapes my eyes. I am the first wielder of the Sharingan, Indra Otsutsuki. Nothing is out of view for these eyes. Her eyes widened in shock and horror. This was Indra Otsutsuki? The eldest son of the Sage of Six Paths? How? She couldn't win against that man. Indra Otsutsuki was known as the fastest man alive when he wanted to. She gasped as a fireball hit the mirror she was in and sped to another one. Your fire can't melt my mirrors. Nothing can. He pointed at where she'd been, really? She turned to see that wherever the fireball had splashed across the ice, it had melted it completely. How? How did you do that? No chakra can melt these mirrors. Ahead of yourself, aren't you? I used nature chakra, which I have gathered in my staff the entire time I've had it. There's quite a store there and nature chakra is the most potent of them all. So potent, that if you do not control it, you turn to stone. Shit. I can't win. I can't win. Another blast melts the mirror she was in and she barely dodged, gaining a few burns as she does so. She saw the black-haired boy watching this with Sharingan active, not helping. Could Indra really take her on alone? She had no doubt. He didn't have a scratch and 4 of her mirrors had been melted, as well as taking injuries. She pulled out her Senbon and started throwing them, just trying to keep moving so that he couldn't target her. All she needed was to gain time for Zabuza-sama until Kakashi and Tazuna were dead. The Senbon were blocked and another fireball hurtled towards her. She dodged, barely missing again, as her mirrors are destroyed. She was down to half the original now, and he still wasn't even scratched. She was so outclassed that she could feel her death getting closer each second. One of these times, he would catch her and she'd be a goner. There was a crack and a cry of pain and Naruto's red eyes narrowed. That sounded like Kakashi. He would end this quickly. He started making hand seals and he looked at Sasuke. Use Susanoo or this will hurt. Sasuke's eyes widened and he was immediately surrounded by a purple warrior that shielded him as Naruto finished his seals. He slammed his hands into the ground, fire style, great fire wave of annihilation. Fire spread around him in a huge tidal wave that destroyed the remaining mirrors and sent Haku flying away, smoking. Sasuke dropped his Susanoo so that all of his abilities wouldn't be revealed right away. The fire died down and he looked at Naruto in shock. That was amazing. Naruto smiled, panting a little heavily from chakra drain. Yeah, I know. Madara Uchiha invented it, and since Indra's soul was in him, he learned it as well. That's great. Now let's help Kakashi-sensei. They rushed forward and saw Kakashi lying on the ground with a broken leg and a gash across his chest. Since there was blood, they knew it was a real body. Naruto went over to him and bent down, checking his pulse. Finding a steady one, he stood. Hey Zabuza. You wanted a copy ninja. How about I give you two? Zabuza's voice came from the mist, sounding slightly surprised. Two? Naruto smirked. Let's go, Sasuke. First real enemy. Let's have fun. Sasuke smirked as well and got ready, his Sharingan spinning. Let's. But first, let's clear away the mist, shall we? Wind style, wind scythe. He blew outwards and the mist all blew away in a big gust to reveal Zabuza standing on the water, looking at them in shock. Their heads lifted where he could see them, and his eyes shrunk to pinpricks as he saw two fully evolved Sharingan users. His skin went sheet white and he gasped, how? I heard that there were only two Uchihas left, and I've seen Itachi Uchiha. You're not him. The blonde smirked. Well, I might not be Itachi, but by the time I'm done with you, you'll wish I was, Zabuza Mamachi. Let's dance. Somewhere in the afterlife, Madara sneezed. Someone must have used my favorite phrase. Wonder who? Back to the fight. Naruto held out his staff and twirled it. A ball of energy started forming in the middle in front of his hands and Zabuza's eyes widened as he felt pure chakra wash over him. The ball suddenly shot forward and smashed into his chest, sending him flying backwards to land in the water. Naruto spun and, before the man could react, threw a kunai that pierced Zabuza's shoulder. Just then he heard a scream and he spun to see the bridge covered in thugs. One of them had just buried their blade in the helpless Haku's stomach and twisted. Naruto's eyes narrowed. That wasn't going to happen on his watch. He sped forward and started ripping through the thugs, snapping necks, bisecting bodies, slitting throats, burning people alive. He reached Haku and grabbed her before he jumped back. He started making hand seals and the water rose up behind him, coming from the river, water style, tidal wave. The wave crashed down and washed most of the thugs into the river, where they drowned, not knowing how to swim. Now, Naruto fell to one knee, panting. He had used two major jutsus today, and his chakra was running low. He hadn't gained access to the fox's chakra yet, still having to speak to the demon about it. He felt movement and he spun to see a blade coming down on him. His eyes widened and it slashed across his chest. He cried out and fell backwards, landing on the ground, still panting from the jutsus. His vision started growing dark, and he saw a large form appear in front of him and start fighting the bandits, defending him. Blackness encompassed him. Zabuza spun at the sound of Haku's scream, and so did the man he was fighting. The man's eyes narrowed and he flashed down there and started cutting through the men to get to the injured Kunoichi. Holy shit! He doesn't act like a genin. A genin wouldn't kill so effortlessly and ruthlessly. Haku. I have to save Haku. The Kunoichi girl was like a surrogate daughter to him. He treated her like a tool in case he ever needed to leave her, she would be able to survive. But now she was injured and his enemy was rescuing her. He saw the man grab Haku and move her before he started doing hand seals. Suddenly a giant tidal wave rose up around the bridge and smashed into the mob, killing many and sending many to their deaths of drowning. He saw the Sharingan user fall to one knee, supporting himself with only his hand as he panted. His eyes widened as he saw a bandit approach the unsuspecting man. The man spun and his red eyes widened before the blade went across his chest and blood sprayed to the ground. He collapsed to his side, breathing raggedly, and Zabuza sped forward, pulling Kubikiribocho from his back. He slashed his sword across the enemy nin's chest, and he saw the Sharingan user close his eyes and fall limp, breathing weakly. He started cutting through the enemy, and then the second boy that had been with the blonde nin rushed in and started helping him, cutting through them quickly. When all that was left was Gato, Zabuza sped forward and bisected him, before he went back to see the black-haired kid picking the other one off the ground gently. He checked for a pulse and then sighed in relief, obviously finding one, before he looked up. Why did you help Naruto? Haku is like my daughter, and he defended her even if she was his enemy. The black-haired kid eyed him a moment, before his eyes darkened to black and he gently stood, trying to avoid jostling the injured man in his arms. He walked over to Kakashi and found the man awake, wrapping his leg in bandages. Kakashi froze as soon as he saw the unmoving form in Sasuke's arms. Naruto. Sasuke, what happened? We were fighting Zabuza, and then a band of thugs came and stabbed the girl, so Naruto rushed in to help her, but he used 2 energy-draining jutsus today, and he collapsed to his knee in chakra exhaustion. One of the thugs took this chance to wound him, but Zabuza stepped in and saved him before killing Gato. Naruto is unconscious. Let's get that wound wrapped. He heard a delicate voice speak. Zabuza-sama, can I heal him? Go ahead, Haku. He saved your life. The girl nodded and staggered over, before she placed her hands over the wound. They glowed green and the wound started healing together, until it was finished and Haku smiled, done. Naruto groaned and opened his eyes part way, looking at them blearily. His eyes opened further and he blinked a few times, before focusing on Kakashi. Kakashi gasped as he saw the 2 red eyes looking at him. Naruto hadn't gotten a chance to deactivate the Sharingan before he passed out, and he was too groggy to notice right now. Sasuke looked at him and tapped right below his eye and Naruto's eyes widened, before they darkened to navy blue again. He clutched his chest and sat up with a small groan of pain, before he found Zabuza and cocked his head. You helped me? Yes, Haku is like a daughter to me, and you saved her. Both Haku and Naruto's eyes widened, and then Naruto smiled. I see, well thank you, Mr. Zabuza. What are you going to do now? Don't you want to capture us? You helped me. I helped you. You broke Kakashi-sensei's leg, so it's up to him. I know that I can't chase you. Sasuke would put up a good chase and probably win with you weakened like this, but I don't see why. Sure, you tried to kill our client, but you're not anymore and are no longer considered a threat in my eyes. Zabuza blinked a few times. I see. Well, is there any way to join a village? Ha! Well, even though we're your enemies, you helped us, and I want to live in a village with people like that. I'll become a nin if you want and fight for Konoha. Naruto turned to his teacher, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi thought a minute and then sighed. Yeah, we can try to get you as part of the village. Let's rest at Tazuna's until the bridge is complete and then we'll head home. We should be healed up by then if Haku helps. Naruto, we need to talk. Naruto sighed and turned. Yes, Kakashi-sensei? I think you know what. How do you have the Sharingan and even fully evolved? And I know they're natural because you can turn them off. Naruto sighed again. You're right. They're natural. Kakashi-sensei, you know how I died. Yes, you told me. Well, I have the soul of Indra Otsutsuki in me. He brought me back and he gave me his Sharingan. Kakashi's eyes widened. Why, you have the first Sharingan in existence. Yes, and all of Indra's memories. Please don't tell anyone. Only Sasuke knows. Kakashi was silent a moment. I will make that promise with one exception. Naruto looked uneasy. What is it? You tell Hokage-sama. He needs to know. Naruto sighed in relief. I was already going to do that, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi nodded, all right. I think that you should at least tell Sakura of your eyes because she's your teammate, but that's your decision. I'll think on it, Kakashi-sensei. Good. Thank you. Naruto sighed as he finally arrived home from that mission. They had stayed another week and a half until the bridge was done, but then they'd come home. Sarutobi had allowed Zabuza and Haku in and was testing them in a week to see what rank they would be. They had a week off, though of course training didn't count. Kakashi had given them one say, but that was it. He opened his door and was immediately wary. He sensed someone else in his house, and he didn't recognize the chakra. His house was also clean, completely spotless. He crept in and heard humming from the kitchen, as well as the sound of water, and his eyes narrowed. He suddenly flipped out and threw a kunai, and he saw a blonde head of hair spin, and then duck behind counter with a shit. Whoever it was stayed there and he spoke, "Who are you and why are you in my apartment?" He heard a gasp and then a deep male voice, "I'm going to slide my weapons pouch and kunai holster out, and then I'm going to stand. Please don't attack me. I can explain." Then do it. He heard movement and then a weapons pouch slid out, along with a kunai holster. A headband with the leaf symbol came next, and then a cloak that looked like the one the third had given him, except for the kanji for fourth Hokage on it. His eyes widened in shock as he saw the cloak and his eyes fastened on where the man would be rising, filled with hope. This had to be a dream. Hands rose up and then a blonde head, and then the rest of a tall broad body that faced him. He gasped as he saw the familiar features and then activated his Sharingan to make sure this wasn't a henge or a genjutsu. It wasn't. The fourth Hokage stood in front of him, looking a bit worried at his lack of response so far. His eyes filled with tears and the kunai in his hand dropped to the ground. "Dad?" The man's eyes widened and Naruto threw himself forward. He hit the man in the chest and grabbed him tightly. "Is that really you, Dad? Please tell me this is real." Arms wrapped around him, supporting him and holding him tightly. "This is real. Kami sent me back so that you could have your father. She answered your wish." The arms tightened and Naruto felt wetness hitting his head as the man in his arms started shaking and his voice lowered to a cracked whisper, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I wasn't here until now, Naruto. I wanted to be, oh God, I wanted to, but I couldn't. I'm so sorry for what's happened to you because of the fox." Naruto just hugged him tighter. "It's okay. It's okay, Dad. You're here now. I've wanted a father for so long. I always thought that you abandoned me, and now I know you didn't. I'm so glad that you're back, so glad." Minato gasped and then just held him tightly, letting him cry into his chest. He hadn't been there before. He sure as hell would now, even if it cost him his life again. His son needed him. When he was done, he pulled away and wiped his eyes. "Sorry about that. I haven't cried in years except about not having parents and to finally have my dad. It was too much." "No, don't apologize. I should be apologizing, not you. You're never too old to express your feelings, never." Naruto smiled weakly and his father smiled back. The younger blonde sniffled and then finally saw his dad's outfit and his eyes lit up in amusement. "Is that apron pink?" "Hey! It's light red. It's my favorite apron." Naruto chuckled, breaking the mood. "It's just, you're one of the most feared shinobi in the world, and you wear a pink apron." Minato pouted and crossed his arms. "So mean to me." Naruto smiled brightly. "Odd, just like me." "I like it." Minato looked startled for a minute, before he chuckled. "Yeah, all right. Now, I've been here for about a week and a half and I've hidden that I was here, because I wanted to surprise you. Unfortunately, I can't cook, so how about you change into something cleaner and we'll go get ramen from Ichiraku's." Naruto's face lit up, his weariness immediately gone. "Yeah. Right back." Then he was gone. Minato chuckled and finished wiping the counters down, which is what he'd been doing when his son had gotten home. The state of his apartment was deplorable. Empty ramen cups, trash, dirty clothes, and dust had been everywhere. The hot water didn't work, there was graffiti on the walls, the windows looked to have been replaced multiple times, and his bed was in the worst condition Minato could imagine. He'd, of course, gotten these faults fixed, and he planned on moving them both to Namake's cottage as soon as possible. His son wouldn't live like this while he was alive, that was for sure. He took off his apron that he'd gotten from his cottage and dried his hands, before he combed through his hair with his fingers to at least try and smooth it a little bit, but it, of course, didn't work. He grabbed the stuff he'd slipped out when Naruto had first gotten home and re-equipped himself with it, before he pulled the well-aimed kunai that had barely missed his head from the wall. He set it on the counter for Naruto when he came out and then slipped on his shoes and waited. He didn't have to wait long. Soon, Naruto came back out with a clean version of what he'd just been wearing and Minato noticed that his eyes were still red, and not from crying. His Sharingan were still activated. Your eyes are still active. Naruto blushed and they turned navy blue again, sorry. It seems like they're not even activated because I don't notice the drain on my chakra, and I don't go blind with them. I did the same thing during the mission. That was a pain to explain to Kakashi-sensei. Minato chuckled as his son put his shoes on, I see. Now, are we revealing me or waiting? Naruto froze for a minute, that's up to you, Dad. Do you want to get mobbed? Minato's face paled, no. So, a henge then, at least for now. I want to spend some time with you at least for a while, before I have anything to do with the people of this village. I'm not very happy with them right now. After seeing how they treated you, I'm actually quite disgusted. Naruto chuckled, a henge it is. Now, I'm hungry. Let's go. Minato smiled and put up a henge that changed his hair to the same length as Naruto's and completely black. His facial features altered slightly and his clothes changed to a regular Chunin outfit. With this done, they left, heading towards Ichiraku's. Minato watched with thinly veiled disgust at the angry, accusing glares cast at his son. He knew that Naruto felt them, the boy was as stiff as a board, but he studiously ignored them and kept going forward. The next time he saw a glare, he released some killer intent, and the villager paled and turned away quickly. He continued this the entire time they were walking, and he saw Naruto loosen up a small amount and give him a smile of thanks. They reached the ramen stand and Naruto smiled brightly, hey old man Tucci. I've come for food. Tucci turned and smiled, my best customer. Hello, Naruto. How are you? First mission a success? Yeah. It was so cool, but really dangerous. It was actually a B-ranked mission, but we finished it. Tucci gasped, already a B-ranked mission? My lord, boy. You sure attract a lot of attention. I bet it was that sunshine hair of yours that drew the assassins. He said this with a joking smile and Naruto pouted, not my fault. I like my hair though. I bet my dad's was the same. Tucci chuckled and Minato saw a flash of sadness cross the old man's face. So this man knew of Naruto's parentage. The next words out of his mouth confirmed it, at least to Minato, I bet he did, Naruto. I bet he did. Minato smiled, hello, my name is Erasure. I met Naruto a while ago and he said this was the best place in town. It's nice to meet you. Tucci's eyes widened. He was one of the few that knew of Minato's old nickname during missions, due to him being a retired ANBU. He saw Arashi's eyes narrow in recognition, and then a quick wink confirmed his suspicions, before Erasure spoke again, I'll have miso. What kind do you want, Naruto? Naruto smiled brightly, I want pork. Tucci smiled, right up. You heard them, I am. Yup, Papa, sure did. Coming right up. Minato turned to Naruto and caught the boy's eyes, before he leaned down, I know Tucci from when he was an ANBU. Naruto nodded as his confusion was cleared up, having caught the quick signals between his dad and the ramen cooker, I thought it was something like that. Makes sense. Now, let's eat. Ooh. There's Sasuke. Minato turned to see the black-haired Uchiha walking down the street. Naruto hopped up and forcefully dragged the boy over to the ramen stand, much to his indignant yelps. Naruto. Put me down. What the hell? Naruto smiled. I want you to come eat. I know that you can't cook worth crap. Besides, old man Tucci just perfected his tomato ramen. Sasuke's eyes lit up at the thought of tomatoes, and he allowed Naruto to drag him over. He was sat down on the other side of the young blonde and Naruto ordered some tomato ramen. Before he turned to Minato, Erasure, this is Sasuke. Sasuke, this is Erasure. Sasuke looked at him with narrowed eyes. But he held out his hand. Hello, my name's Erasure. I met Naruto a while ago and I saw him wandering, so I brought him to get food. Sasuke seemed to accept his excuse and shook his hand. Sasuke Uchiha. Minato narrowed his eyes in thought. He had done some exploring his old village for the past week and a half, with nothing else to do, and found some disturbing facts. One was the Uchiha massacre. He knew that Itachi had been forced to kill his clan by Danzo. The man had given the older Uchiha an ultimatum. Either he kill his family and Sasuke would live or Danzo would kill his family and Sasuke would die with the others. He still had the file he'd stolen, disgusted in the man's acts. He looked at Sasuke a moment. Can you come to Naruto's apartment after this and we can talk? Sasuke looked confused. Why? Naruto looked at his father in surprise. You want to tell him? That, and more. Naruto nodded and turned to Sasuke. Your eyes. Sasuke activated his eyes and looked at Erasure, and they widened in shock. Why yonda dash? Naruto put a hand over his mouth quickly. Yeah, but we don't want people to know yet. Sasuke nodded and pulled his hand away, staring at the dead fourth Hokage in shock, able to see through the hinge with his eyes. He looked between them and his eyes widened further as he saw the resemblance. Naruto nodded. If you come over, we'll explain. Alright, I'll come over. I want answers. Naruto nodded again, and you'll get them. Now, here's our food. Their food was placed in front of them and Sasuke looked down, hiding his eyes and deactivating them. They all ate their food quickly and then they went to Naruto's apartment. Time for some secrets to be brought to light. They reached Naruto's apartment and stepped inside, closing the door behind them and locking it, before they went over to the couch and sat down. Sasuke looked at Minato, who dropped his hinge and started in immediately. Your eyes are correct. I am Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage. I am also Naruto's father, though it was kept secret from him until Kakashi told him. Kami sent me back to the living realm after she'd seen Naruto's hardships, to be a father for my son. Sasuke's eyes widened, but then he grew thoughtful. And why did you decide to tell me? Minato sighed. One was your friendship with Naruto. The other is a lot more difficult and a lot to take in, but I think that you can handle it. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. What is it? Minato wordlessly unsealed the file he'd stolen. Read this, and you will understand. I'm sorry if this hurts you, but I felt that you deserved to know. I beg of you not retaliate against the village. It was all Danzo Shimura to blame for this. Sasuke's eyes widened and he hesitated before he opened the file and read through it. As he went, tears rose up in his eyes and his hands started shaking as water dripped down his cheeks. This, is it all true? Minato nodded. Yes, and as I said, please don't retaliate against the village. It was Danzo Shimura and I plan to end him very soon. This. Minato's hands started shaking in rage as his face became angry. His voice turned to a spit. This is disgusting and unacceptable. I knew he ran root. I disbanded it, and as soon as I was dead, he restarted it. That damn man will get what's coming to him. The Yondaime, yellow flash of Konoha, Minato Namikaze, swears that much. The file dropped to the ground and Sasuke collapsed forwards, crying. Naruto quickly caught him in his arms and let him cry against his chest as he picked up the file. He read through it and a burning rage rose up inside of him. Tears rose up in his eyes as he realized what Sasuke was going through. Damn Danzo. Damn him. He would pay for causing this much pain to his friend. He would pay. He put the file on the table with a look of disgust and wrapped his arms around Sasuke completely. He hugged him tightly. God, I'm so sorry, Sasuke. You don't deserve this. Danzo will pay. I won't let this crime go unpunished. Never. And I never go back on my word. Sasuke laid in his arms, tears dripping down his face, and Naruto held him tightly, wanting to somehow comfort him, somehow help with his pain. Minato watched this with sadness in his eyes, and he leaned forward. I am truly sorry that I had to cause you pain to read this, but I felt as though you deserved to know that your brother loved you more than anyone else. He loved you so much that he killed his family and left for a life of loneliness and betrayal to help you survive. He showed you what he did because he wanted to give you a reason to live. He wanted you to chase him and kill him so that he would pay for his sins. Itachi is a good man. He's stronger than me, that much I know. Sasuke was silent a moment and then he spoke in a cracked whisper. All along, he cared. He loved me. Brother, why? Why did you have to go? Why are you so far away? Naruto clenched his fists and looked up at his father. He didn't know what to do. Sasuke was in pain and there was nothing that he could do for his only friend. Minato's face grew hard as he saw the distraught boys and he picked up the folder. I'm going to deal with Danzo. I think that it's about time he got what was coming to him. Naruto, Sasuke, I'll be back. Naruto nodded, but Sasuke was unresponsive, still shaking in near silent sobs in his friend's arms. Minato jumped from the window silently, not even raising a hinge. It was late and he was fast. After a bit Naruto grabbed his friend and took him to his room, where he sat on the bed against the wall and held Sasuke in his arms tightly. After a bit, Sasuke looked up. Naruto? Yes. You don't think me weak, do you? Naruto grew confused. Why would you think that? I haven't cried in years and I just cried over this. Oh, Sasuke, no. You're not weak. This was something that me, not even knowing your brother well, cried over. You both had to go through so much. You're not weak, never weak. I'm sure. Sasuke was silent a minute, then, do you think that Itachi will think me weak? Do you think that your father can get him back? I hated him all of these years, never knowing the truth, and now, I want him back. I want him back badly, more than anything. Naruto smiled reassuringly. My dad will get him back. I know he will. I will always be there, even when he does. I don't think you're weak and neither will your brother. Don't worry about that. You're very strong. Believe in yourself, Sasuke. Sasuke looked back down and rested his forehead against Naruto's chest. You think so? I know so. Sasuke sighed in relief. Thank you for believing in me even when I've shown weakness. It means a lot. Of course, Sasuke. Always. Sarutobi puffed on his pipe, looking at the last of the paperwork he had to finish before bed when someone rushed in the door. Hokage-sama. Danzo Shimura's been murdered. Sarutobi's eyes widened. What? By who? A file suddenly flew onto his desk and a cold voice spoke, me, for high treason against Konoha and the Hokage. His head whipped around and the ANBU tensed into a fighting form. Sarutobi spoke, come out. Now. A tall man stepped from the shadows. First, the bottom hem of a cloak with red flames on it, then the light rose up to reveal that the rest of the cloak was white. It finally hit the intruder's face and lit up his bright blue eyes, though now ice-cold, and his bright blonde hair. He looked at Sarutobi. I am disappointed, Hiruzen. I am disappointed that the village I gave my life for fell to this. The last word was spat as he pointed at the folder. Sarutobi gasped, and Minato? How? I came back for my son. My son who didn't even know who I was. I came back to life for him, and I came back to this. An innocent 13-year-old was forced to kill his entire clan, his family, and torture his little brother. He was forced to kill all of them for goddamn Danzo. He was forced to abandon his little brother, who he cared about more than his life. Danzo told Itachi Uchiha that either he would kill the entire clan, including Sasuke, or Itachi would kill the entire clan and leave only his brother alive. I am disgusted. I am disgusted at this village. I don't even know if it's worth saving anymore. You tell me. You tell me why this village was worth my life, all my son's mistreatment, all his abuse. Tell me why I should have made Naruto live without his parents for a village that would do this. Sarutobi's mouth was open in shock and the ANBU was frozen in horror as Minato finished. Sarutobi wordlessly grabbed the file and read through it, his eyes widening and then narrowing. Cat, tell the council that Danzo Shimura was accused of high treason and has been proven guilty. Tell them that he was executed. The ANBU unfroze and was about to leave when Minato spoke. Don't tell them about me yet, and don't mention Itachi's situation. His life will be in grave danger if word gets out that he's not a missing nin anymore. I will contact the boy myself. The ANBU nodded. Hi, Yondaime-sama. Then she was gone. Sarutobi then looked at Minato to see him pinching his nose and taking deep breaths to calm himself, before he sat down in the chair across from the third Hokage and spoke in a cold voice, though now more controlled. Why, Hiruzen Sarutobi, did this happen? Why did this village go down so low? Why was my son treated like a monster? And most importantly, why did you not investigate the Uchiha incident further? A clan genius does not kill his entire family for power, as he put it. Answer my questions truthfully, and I might not horribly mutilate you when you're done. Sarutobi paled. You would have better luck escaping the Shinigami than Minato Namake's wrath, and he knew it. He'd seen it. He gulped and then sat forward. Naruto was because you have many enemies. He was going to find out when he became at least Chunin level, so that he could defend himself. I tried my hardest to help him. I told the village he was a hero, but they did not listen, so I passed a law not to mention the Kyuubi in the village unless in history lessons. Minato's eyes narrowed. I see. While I understand your reasoning, I do not approve. My son has been through hell and back, because you did not tell them who he was. Continue. Itachi? Sarutobi sighed. I'm afraid that Danzo fooled me in that account. I knew only that Itachi killed his entire clan and said that it was to test his limits. I knew of the rebellion they were planning, but Danzo's words overpowered my gut feeling, so I did not investigate further. I see. That is disappointing. I want Itachi pardoned, but I don't want it announced yet. I will go to him myself and tell him. If word gets out that he was framed or coerced into doing it, his life will be in grave danger. Are you sure that's a good idea, Minato? Yes, I want this righted. Sasuke is at Naruto's house in pieces after hearing the truth about Itachi. He needs his brother. I will most likely leave tomorrow. According to Danzo's files, Itachi is in reign at the Akatsuki headquarters. I will go there and get him. Sarutobi sighed. All right, if you insist, Minato. He suddenly gained a small smile, but you have to help me with the paperwork that comes with this. Minato smirked, the dark mood gone. Want to hear the secret to paperwork? Sarutobi's eye lit up. What is it? Minato chuckled. Shadow clones. Sarutobi's eyes went wide and he wordlessly pulled out a small square of wood that had a chibi Tobirama on it. The Tobirama was holding up a target and little words in the corner said to use in cases of extreme stupidity. Sarutobi then started slamming his head into the target. Stupid, 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 stupid. Minato chuckled and stopped him. You're going to get a concussion. Well, have fun with that. Sarutobi nodded and Minato was gone. Naruto looked at him. Are you really going? You just got here. Minato sighed, I know I did. I know, but I'm going to get Itachi back for your friend. I'll leave a shadow clone with you. How about that? It's not as good as the real me, but I'm the only one that can do this safely. Naruto sighed and looked at the sleeping Sasuke on his couch, before he turned back. Alright, it's fine. Sasuke deserves someone to love him too. Don't worry about the clone. I don't want you to waste your chakra. I'll see you when you get back, Dad. You better be back in one piece. Minato smiled and cast a hinge. Alright, I'll sure try, sunshine. Goodbye. Be good for Kakashi. Naruto smiled as well. I'll certainly try. Minato nodded, and then he was gone out the window. Naruto immediately missed him, but he knew that Sasuke deserved a loving person too. He sighed and went to take a shower, glad that his dad had fixed the water problem. Minato arrived at the edge of rain and looked to see a large tower in the distance. Now he just needed to find out about Itachi's location and find him. Hopefully, he wasn't too far away, or it would be difficult. He crept through the foliage quietly, hiding from all eyes, until he arrived in a small clearing. He jumped into a tree and sat down, crossing his legs and closing his eyes, before he spread his senses out. He was a very good chakra sensor, though he hadn't told anyone, and had read Sasuke's quite well. Now, he was looking for something similar. He finally found it along with one that sensed of water and large chakra stores, and he hopped down and went that direction. He arrived to see two figures leaning against a tree. One was a fish-like man and he was sleeping, and the other was watching around him warily with black eyes. Minato could tell that he was an Uchiha by his looks and his chakra. He thought a moment and then slipped behind a tree and did a hinge. He needed to pull Itachi away from the other man. He crept out, purposefully raising his chakra to levels that someone could sense, though just barely so to stop Itachi from studying his chakra and realizing right away that it was a strong opponent. He slipped out and went through the tall grass, and he saw Itachi's head whip his direction as a kunai left his sleeve and fell into his hand. The Uchiha stood and came towards him, and he quickly ran away, hiding his looks for now. Itachi followed him until they were out of the fish-like man's range of view, and he stopped behind a tree. He heard footsteps, and then they stopped behind the tree, and he pulled out a scroll from his pocket. He tossed it around the tree and heard a gasp and someone jump back, but when the scroll didn't blow up or anything of the sort, he heard it get grabbed and unrolled. He heard another gasp and he stayed silent, before a deep male voice spoke. What is this? What is the meaning of this? Who are you and why have you come? He spoke, still staying out of firing range. I came to deliver that to you, Itachi Uchiha. Only I had the skill to do so and I felt it my job. Sasuke wants you back. He was broken up at my son's house when I left to find you. He's very upset. Itachi's tone became suspicious, and how did he find out the truth? I told it to him, and then I went and murdered Danzo for causing you and Sasuke so much pain. Danzo never told the Hokage of his plans. He simply went through with them and forced you, an innocent 13-year-old at the time, to kill your family. It disgusted me, so I went and buried a kunai through his cold heart. Then, I ripped the fake arm he had made that was filled with stolen Sharingan off. I sealed it away and left it for Hiruzen. Sarutobi pardoned you, as that scroll says, but it's not common knowledge because I didn't want you to get killed. Itachi was silent a moment. I want to see your face. So you can use your Sharingan to prove that I'm not lying? Yes. Minato sighed, and then stepped out from behind the tree to see Itachi standing there with the scroll in his hand. The Uchiha's eyes widened when he saw him. Yondaime-sama? Yes, I was brought back to life for my son, Naruto. Naruto is Sasuke's friend, and therefore, I feel responsible for the boy. I want to see him happy once more, which is why I came. Itachi's eyes widened further as his Sharingan revealed that this was the truth, and then he looked at the scroll again. Then, this is real. I'm a Konoha Nin again? Yes, you are a Konoha Nin again, but only if you wish to be so. I can tell you that Sasuke wants you very much, and I can also say that I have a way that we can very convincingly fake your death so that you're not chased and Sasuke's not put in danger on our way back. Itachi looked at him with a newfound hope. You can help me see my brother again? Yes, Itachi. I swear that I will help you see your brother again. Itachi looked down at the scroll and then rolled it up and slipped it away and looked up. All right. Let's do this. I want to see Sasuke again. Minato smiled and nodded before he made a rapid succession of hand seals. A blood clone of Itachi appeared next to them, looking around, and Minato spoke. This is a real blood clone, a real body. It's your blood clone. We will destroy this, and because of this certain jutsu, it won't disappear. Itachi nodded and then slipped off his Akatsuki cloak and put it on the clone. He slipped the ring off of his finger, and then his slashed Konoha headband, and they both went on the clone. Satisfied, he stepped away. Now what, Yondaime-sama? Please call me Minato. Now what, Minato-sama? Minato groaned and then pulled out his kunai, killing blows on the clone, and we will send it back to your teammate on death's door, where he will tell your friend that it was Orochimaru, and then die. Itachi nodded and drew his own kunai, falling into a fighting stance. We need to destroy its eyes somehow, so that Leader-sama cannot take the body for the Sharingan. Orochimaru has been aiming for my eyes since I left Konoha, so removing them would be the best option. Minato nodded. All right, let's do this. Kisame woke up to staggering footsteps, and he whipped his head around to find Itachi. Sure, that kid freaked him out a bit, killing his entire family and all, but he didn't want him dead nonetheless. He didn't see him, and then footsteps got closer. He stood, eyeing the bushes near the footsteps he was hearing. His eyes widened in shock when the identity was revealed. Itachi had his clothes in tatters and blood pouring from multiple wounds spanning across his body. His eyes were closed and blood poured from underneath the eyelids, going down his face in streams. Kisame gasped and Itachi came closer, before falling to his knees and speaking in a faint and slightly gargled voice, Kisa, me. Kisame rushed forwards and caught him as he collapsed forwards. Itachi, what happened? Oh, Ro. Chi ma are you, stole, my, eyes, I ma, naged, T2, C crush th them, b but, he was, T2, strong. Itachi. Hold on. Leader can heal you. And no. Too late. Kisame stood quickly, picking Itachi up with him as he went, and started rushing back to Rain Tower. He felt Itachi shudder in his arms and then fall limp. He looked down to see his head loll limply and his hand dangle from his arms, letting the small picture his teammate always carried of his little brother fall to the ground. Kisame's eyes closed as Itachi's chakra disappeared completely, and then he picked up the picture of the little boy and tucked it into Itachi's cloak, before continuing his journey with the body in his hands. He arrived and went upstairs, where he knocked on Leader's door. Come in. He stepped in and the orange-haired man looked up in curiosity. His eyes widened as he came across the dead body, and he shot up. What happened to him? He told me I could take a nap and he would keep watch while we waited for the client, so I fell asleep. I woke up to hear staggering footsteps, and I jumped to the ready, but then Itachi came from the bushes looking like this. He said that Orochimaru attacked him and stole his eyes. He managed to crush the eyes so that Orochimaru couldn't use them, but he was fatally injured. He died on the way here. Leader's face grew angry. I see. Orochimaru will pay dearly for killing one of our own. That much I will make certain. Since Itachi's eyes are gone, I can't make him into a body, so we will bury him tomorrow. Leave me. Kisame nodded and left. Meanwhile, Itachi and Minato jumped through the forest towards Konoha. Minato had given Itachi his Erasure look to henge into, so that they wouldn't get attacked. Konoha was 2 days' travel from here, so they would get there shortly. The Uchiha was nervous, he had to admit. He was worried that Sasuke would hate him. He was worried that he would only be seen as a threat that had to be eliminated. But his main concern was his brother. He'd been alone for so long because of him, been through so much pain. Would Sasuke be able to forgive him? They finally arrived at the village and Minato stopped at the gates. The guard's eyes widened in shock as he saw Minato, and the yondaime gave a small amused smile. Well, hello Kotetsu. Never thought you'd see me again, I see. How are you? Why yondaime-sama? How? I came back to life for my son. Your son, yondaime-sama? Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze is my son. Kotetsu's eyes widened in shock yet again. I see. You may enter, yondaime-sama. Thank you, Kotetsu. They stepped inside and then jumped onto the rooftops, heading towards the Hokage Tower. They jumped inside and Minato spoke. I have returned, Sarutobi. Sarutobi looked up and his eyes caught on the hinged Itachi, who was looking around warily. He waved his hand. Anbu, you may go. This is the real yondaime. I've already confirmed it. The hidden Anbu left and Itachi relaxed a small amount, before he bowed with his hand over his heart in a fist. Hokage-sama. You can stand, Itachi. There's no need to bow. Please rise. Itachi rose up and moved his hand and Minato put a hand on his shoulder. We don't want formalities, Itachi. I just wanted to let Sarutobi know that we got you back. I must say, he was quite upset when he learned of the truth behind the massacre. Danzo has been publicly announced executed for his crimes, though no one knows what the crimes were except a few, and they won't share it. Itachi nodded and relaxed even more, sighing in relief. Thank you for giving me this chance to make it up to my brother. Minato smiled. No need to thank us, Itachi. We couldn't let an innocent man be hunted for something he had no choice about. Now, Naruto and Sasuke are probably at Naruto's apartment, but Sarutobi, if you please. The third nodded and waved his hand. A picture appeared in his crystal ball of the two boys. Minato indeed recognized the background as Naruto's apartment, and he nodded his head. Thank you. If there is nothing else, I think it's about time Sasuke sees his brother again. Then they were gone. They jumped towards Naruto's apartment, and when they got there, Minato knocked. I'm back, Naruto. Dad. The door opened to reveal Naruto, and the younger blonde smiled and wrapped his father in a giant hug. I missed you, Dad. Minato chuckled. Well, now I'm here and I brought a guest. Is Sasuke here? Naruto's eyes lit up and he looked at Itachi and waved. Hi, I'm Naruto. Itachi nodded. And I am Itachi. Come on. Sasuke's inside. They stepped inside and followed Naruto to the living room, where a chessboard was sitting. Sasuke looked up and his eyes immediately transferred over to his hinged brother. His eyes turned red and swirled with 3 tomos, and then he gasped and was up in seconds. He crashed into his brother's chest and hugged him tightly, and Itachi stumbled, before he looked down to see Sasuke crying into his chest. HS' expression immediately softened, and he wrapped his arms around the crying boy. Naruto and Minato saw this and smiled, before they left to get dinner, leaving the 2 Uchihas alone. Itachi sat down on the couch, keeping his brother tight and rubbing his back, and Sasuke just cried into his chest, clutching him tightly. Nisan, you're back. You're really back. Itachi smiled. Yes, Ototo, I'm back. I'm sorry for ever leaving. I won't do it again, not to you. Sasuke sniffled and looked up at him with hopeful eyes. Really? Yes, really. Sasuke smiled and laid his head on Itachi's chest, just listening and smiling happily. After a bit, Itachi spoke. So, when did you awaken the Sharingan? He blinked in surprise and then smiled again and spoke. A while back. Naruto's been helping me control it by training with me. Itachi thought a moment and then nodded. I'm glad. Sasuke looked up. Want to see something cool? Oh, what? Sasuke smirked and his eyes swirled faster before they blended together to reveal his Manjikyu. Itachi's eyes widened in shock. How? When? A few months ago, right after I became a genin, Naruto was attacked and killed. He died in front of me. An angry mob pitchforked him and then slashed his throat. I blamed myself because I hadn't been quick enough to stop the blade, and then my eyes started hurting. I'm glad that Naruto managed to find a way to come back. He's my only real friend here in the village. Do you know how he managed to come back? Now, a new voice spoke. Yeah, I'm a reincarnated soul. You've probably heard of Indra Otsutsuki, Itachi. Itachi whipped his head around to see Naruto in the window with his father next to him. How did you manage to sneak up on me? My dad's the Hokage, and I'm just good like that. Wait. You said Indra Otsutsuki. He's the first Sharingan wielder ever. Naruto smirked and hopped down. I know he is, I am. His eyes swirled into his own Manjikyu and Itachi's eyes widened even further. You mean that you have the Manjikyu as well? Yeah, and I was training Sasuke how to use his. I already warned him about the blindness, and he only uses his Manjikyu in dire situations. Itachi looked at Naruto in shock. You're Indra Otsutsuki? Yes, indeed I am. That's, wow, amazing. Does that mean that you can use all the powers of the Manjikyu? Of course, all of them, and I won't go blind because of it. Now, Dad and I brought you back some food, so here. He threw a bag of food at Itachi and he caught in, opening it to reveal Pocky and tomatoes. He chuckled and handed Sasuke the tomatoes, which were devoured like a rampant beast, before he started on his Pocky. Naruto chuckled at their respective reactions and then smiled brightly. Guess what? Dad says that Nanake's cottage is repaired, thanks to Old Man Hokage, and we can go live there. There's 4 bedrooms, so everyone will get their own room. Will you guys come stay with us? Sasuke looked at Itachi and then back at Naruto and smiled. Yeah, sure, Naruto. Naruto's smile grew. Yay. Did you hear that, Dad? They want to come stay with us. Minato chuckled. Yes, I heard.